In history, which some choose to forget, upon assumption of all attendant risks thereby, it is established that some victories are achieved in battle at the price of great loss. And in what are termed as Pyrrhic victories, those losses make victory fleeting and unsustainable. And this week, throughout the nation and in Northern Virginia, the flags are flying at half-mast, noting the passing of an old guard of an establishment attorney who died with his last moments affixing his signature to subpoenas to attempt to impeach a sitting president. And perhaps in a party of the people that is all that a son of a sharecropper can expect to spend his last moments on earth doing, but not in a party of opportunity. And some have presented this image yet as the picture of a civil rights leader. But having charged to the sound of the guns in 2 decades in the service of our country, in uniform, taking an oath of enlistment to serve as an infantryman when the dark clouds of war loomed over the troubled Middle East, I would hope that if I passed from this world, dying with my boots on, those final moments of breath would be in fighting with the forces that keep our country free, preserving our American way of life, defending our Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, in furtherance of that solemn oath that I took so many years ago for duty, honor, and country. Those 3 hallowed words that reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, and what you will be. Those 3 hallowed words that are your rallying points to build courage when courage seems to fail you, to regain faith when there appears to be so little cause for faith, and to give you your hope when all hope has become forlorn. For those were the very words of a temperate will that brought courage over timidity, and an appetite for adventure over the love of ease that we as Army officer candidates wrote carefully on little note cards to be prepared to, on command, recite from rote when asked by a TAC officer or NCO what was the required knowledge of the day. I am neither a vaunted civil rights leader nor an attorney, but this past week has most certainly found me many times in the halls and chambers of our local and state court. And I am proud to say, doing a little bit more than affixing my signature on subpoena, to get along and go along in a style that today regrettably some praise as leadership. But even as a child, when I spake as a child and understood as a child, I yet possess full comprehension that if you sit in the front seat of a roller coaster, only a fool believes that he is therefore driving the train. And while there is a time for freedom riders, weathering the storm and wishing for more fortuitous time, I recall that a friend of my father, who none would doubt as a civil rights leader today, who lent sharp rebuke to those of a more moderate temperament, who preferred that he cease his sense of urgency and simply wait out the storm. And while today, observance of his birthday, or to raise funds for a political party that has laid claim to his dream, just looking at the beautiful black and white pictures displaying his courage, I am most impressed by those moments where he, in display of the epitome of leadership, dared to be a Daniel and stand alone. Even when sitting in a Birmingham jail cell, writing long letters, thinking strange thoughts, and praying long prayers. Only when one is ready, willing and able to accept loneliness of command, the sting of battles and scorn of rebuke, is one then forged in the fires to be a true leader. And when that moment of birth arrives, you know it in more than just a feeling, but rather in empirically observable and quantifiable evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. In the black church tradition in which I was born and in which I came of age, there is an old Negro spiritual that heeds us to build our hopes on things eternal, holding to God's unchanging hand, and yet another hymn in the Protestant tradition that calls us to stand on Christ the solid rock because all other ground is sinking sand, and I am not ashamed of that gospel. And while some may call these antiquated codes, just the things of which fairy tales and fables are made, I am a witness in this past week to the wisdom and power of a merciful and kind providence that ordereth all things for our good. Never in my wildest imaginations did I ever find cause to contemplate that the son of a prominent pastor would be delivering arguments before a state Supreme Court in a civil rights case, especially when possessing neither an academic degree nor a license to practice law. But that was the first oral argument amongst at least 3 civil rights cases in which I am both the litigant and litigator on appeal to state and federal courts. And in a troubling sign of the times in which we are immersed, it is of dispositive value that in not one of those civil rights cases has any progressive civil rights organization taken the helm, nor even joined the fight, but they rather find life on a plantation party of the people, drunk with the wine of the world and pleasant pleasures, unawares that their roots have been unearthed, and lacking insight into their present condition in a welfare state of many broken promises in education, family structure, achievement, and opportunity. But the court victories this week signal that they are not alone in being lost in an entitlement mentality. In a merit-based civil service system, one would want faith that no person might be offered a job for which he was in no ways qualified, nor even re-offered that same lucrative job at a highly coveted agency, especially if, as it appears, there is no evidence that he ever applied. Moreover, one would want faith that an incumbent congressman in the congressional districts where the most federal employees are located would not be at the forefront of a fight to quash a whistleblower complaint for which they are willing to jeopardize constitutionally guaranteed rights to due process at the great sacrifice of those same loyal federal employee constituents, while colluding with the Federal Workers Union not to sound an alarm that might wake their children. And in this effort, it is a notable sign of achievement that it is one that is publicly decried as deplorable, is not only championing that cause, but also finding great success, pushing forward the edge of battle in the zone of discomfort, finding the General Counsel for the Merit Systems Protections Board feeling so threatened that over a week, that agency engaged in obstruction of justice, punishable by up to 20 years in federal prison, to avoid service of a summons that was only delivered after the power and authority of the United States Marshal Service was detailed for assistance in protecting the administration of justice, well within both the inherent powers and equitable duties of our nation's courts. But at this hour, one sitting jurist in the county of Arlington, who chose willingly to abdicate that duty and responsibility, perhaps thinking judicial immunity was plenary and absolute, may well wake up surprised when uniformed officers from the United States Marshal Service appear at his doorstep. And none of this has appeared in a progressive press. And it is in this action, from which even a noted jurist is currently seeking to evade justice, that we are already finding indicators for success in an upcoming hearing on a motion for summary judgment with broad-reaching impact in Northern Virginia and the Commonwealth. It is in this action, this very, very significant, dare I say huge action, a consolidated complaint initially brought under Section 1983 that was served to over 26 defendants, but to which one amendment and averment has been brought under the Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations Act. There is a high probability of success on the merits to permanently enjoin Congressman Don Beyer from tacking a rainbow flag on the entrance door to his office in Washington or a pro-abortion sign on the entrance door to his district office. It is in this action that for the second time, we have already compelled the County of Arlington to take down a rainbow flag on a state flagpole. And proceeding from this, the First Amendment argument, not in free speech, nor right to assemble, but rather the first liberty in free exercise of religion and conscience, we are optimistic, highly optimistic, that under the Establishment Clause, to bring a permanent injunction to thwart the efforts of the Arlington Public School Board from renaming Washington Lee High School, as well as striking a fatal blow to a reckless agenda antithetical to traditional family values. Moreover, within the next 2 weeks, the hearing may well, by action of the RICO Act, also finally dispose with the matter regarding a bribe offered to a congressional candidate during the 2016 presidential elections, where Hillary Rodham Clinton claimed the Commonwealth's 13 Electoral College votes by only 5 points, as well as find prosecution of Congressman Don Beyer and others on additional charges, including obstruction of justice and conspiracy to incite a person diagnosed with a major depressive disorder and going through significant professional challenges to suicide via text by the use of an anonymous internet stalker who has been identified positively, but who in obstruction of justice has been granted immunity by the Arlington County Commonwealth Attorney Theo Stamos, all of which will not bode well for Democrats in a district where a bookie would not lay odds on a Republican picking up a seat. But all things are possible for those who love the Lord. And so in November, it is a referendum election where you have the power to choose between the party of manumission, slavery, oppression, Jim Crow, and subjugation, or to choose the party of emancipation. In November, you have the power to choose between the party of welfare entitlement and government dependency, or the party of opportunity. In November, you have the power to choose between the party of underperforming public schools and achievement gaps, or the party of school choice. You have the power to choose between the party of mandatory union membership or the party of a right to work. You have the power to choose between the party of universal socialized medicine or the party that will let you choose your provider and your doctor and your insurance plan. In November, you have the power to choose between the party of awaiting the arrival of law enforcement or the party of the right to stand your ground and defend yourself. In November, you have the power to choose between the party of higher taxes and growing bureaucracies or the power of lower taxes and self-determination. It is your party and it is your choice. I am a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican, in that order. And I am not ashamed of the gospel. My name is Major Mike Webb, and I am running for U.S. Congress, not unmindful of the future, with liberty and excellence. Let's make America great again. Honest.